Patriot Academy, Rick Green. Rick, thanks for being here. Where's your mic? Where's your flag?
Hey, brother, on the road today, but good to be with you. I was thinking the same thing as I was watching McConnell. I'm like, he's almost as incomprehensible as Joe Biden.
Yes, that's
this
true.
is the leadership in Washington, D.C. right now.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. He also looks like a Muppet. But anyhow, that's a whole other issue. So red flag laws have been known to be unconstitutional. That's nothing new, at least from the Supreme Court has ruled to a degree on this. So why is this even an option to make a comeback? What's happening here, Rick?
Well, David, listen, the platitudes always sound good, right? These politicians love to just do something. They just have to have a press conference. They have to do something, even though it's outside their jurisdiction. The federal government should have no say in this kind of thing. This is a state and local police issue. The founding fathers left the police power with the state and local governments, not the federal government. But the platitude's great. I don't care if it's coming from an incomprehensible, Joe Biden that can't even make it to the podium, or the man that oozes more coolness than anyone in America, Hollywood actor Matthew McConaughey. Whoever's saying it, it sounds great when they say we ought to keep guns out of the hands of the bad guys. We ought to make it harder for crazy people to be able to get a weapon like this. That sounds good, David. Now the next question should be, okay, how are you going to do it? What are you going to do to make it harder for the bad guy to get the gun without making it harder or impossible for the good guy to have a gun to fight back? Because you're not going to stop a dedicated killer from getting a weapon. Right. They're going to drive a car into a crowd if they can't get a gun, and they can kill more people that way than they can with the gun. I mean, this makes about as much sense as us saying, oh, we need to raise the driving age and the ability to buy a car to 21 because 18-year-olds are irresponsible. Well, if an 18-year-old's not capable of being able to choose to buy a firearm, they shouldn't be allowed to vote. They shouldn't be allowed to serve in the military. They shouldn't be allowed to drive a car. I mean, this is illogical, but it makes these politicians in the swamp feel better.
Okay, so Rick, let's play devil's advocate time. Critics of red flag laws, as we pointed out, say they lack due process. But there are civil proceedings where individuals can testify. I mean, that's my understanding. Is that your understanding? Because, for example, Florida, the law allows law enforcement to get this risk protection order from a judge that would temporarily remove a person's firearm for up to a year. But if a person doesn't comply with that risk protection order, then police have to file a warrant and establish probable cause to obtain the weapon. So help me through this, because it's not like they're just going in and seizing the weapons. That's the devil's advocate argument, or at least part of it.
Well, and you're asking all the right questions, right? The devil's actually in the details, which they've given us none of on this legislation. So it's really hard to tell how far they're going. But let's back up and think about this from a law enforcement perspective. You already have tools at your disposal that if someone's an actual threat, not an anonymous threat like Clay Higgins was talking about, he's 100% right. I love that guy. I love watching his testimony in these hearings as well. But I mean, his commentary in these hearings. Anyway, if you have someone that's an actual threat and they're actually threatening to harm people, you already have a law enforcement ability to go in and detain that person and then find out if they're mentally ill. And if they're mentally ill, we need to go back to committing people that are actually mentally ill in the first place. That would stop a lot of this nonsense. But that's where the devil's in the details. Why don't we use the tools that are at our disposal and do real law enforcement instead of acting like we're suddenly going to stop a lot of these mass murder incidents just by being able to, on a dime, go in and take someone's firearms? And David, you've talked about it. You know this is true. Absolutely, in this environment, in this two-tier justice system that we have right now, look at how they're weaponizing our law enforcement. Look at how they're weaponizing the justice system against people that they disagree with politically. Not people that are actually a threat physically, but they're a threat politically, and therefore they're going in and not allowing due process. Just look at the way January 6th was treated versus the BLM riots that were far more dangerous and far more deadly. So we know they're going to use this in a wrong way, and it's going to be abused by government. That's why some of us still oppose these red flag laws.
Understood. I've got a couple minutes left, or a little less, but I got to get your take on this. Ron DeSantis, everybody loves Ron DeSantis. Hey, they got a red flag law in Florida. I mean, and you've had courts in Connecticut, Indiana, Florida, who have ruled that those red flag laws do not violate the due process rights of people, and they are constitutional. This has gone to court. And DeSantis is like one of 7 Republican governors that have state red flag laws. So this isn't just Democrats. You got Republicans are on board too, including the golden child, DeSantis.
Yeah, no, man, you're exactly right, and that's why, listen, Cornyn always sells us out every chance he gets. But I mean, Cornyn and these Republicans in the Senate are falling all over themselves to be able to have this press conference and claim that they've done something. And once you get into those details, and I can't remember on the Florida one what the specific triggers are and what the due process is that you're given. But due process is what matters here. I mean, definitely there are people that need to be stopped and that we need to have law enforcement step in on. But we have to have due process. You have to have the ability to respond. You have to have the ability to confront your accusers. You have to have the ability to call witnesses for yourself. Those are the things that actually matter here and to be able to prevent the abuse of government. And that's our concern. I mean, civil libertarians and anybody that cares about rights and the Constitution should be very concerned about this general language about red flag laws. And think about what they're saying, David. They're really just trying to fit with the polling. Because in the polling, it's so popular. Because what people think a red flag law is, this is what average American thinks. They think, oh, well, that means this guy has threatened to blow up the school or go in and shoot up the school. Absolutely, we ought to be able to go in and stop him. That's what I'm saying. You can do that right now based on threats and based on a threat of violence. But that's what the American people think a red flag law is, and that's why these politicians want to be able to say that they supported red flag laws.
Rick Green, great to have you on the show. Love the insight. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, David. Good to see you, man.
Have a great Wednesday.